Here we are with the latest What's New in Launchpad session. And thank you all for jumping in and joining us. We've got people joining as we're getting started here. So we will jump into it. Before we get into it, I just wanted to highlight that we've got another webinar coming up next week on July 1st at 8 a.m. Eastern. This is really focused on building with Blueprint in the context of software development and how you build SaaS applications quickly and prototype them using Blueprint. And so we're going to go through some best practices and ideas and really give you some ways to leverage Blueprint to get started quickly. So encourage you to share that and attend, and see you on that one next week. And with that, we'll jump into today's agenda. So first off, I just want to say we're going to get into a panel discussion, kind of like we did last time. We're going to cover basically three topics: many-to-many relationships, error handling, which doesn't sound exciting, but it's actually critical, and it's actually very interesting how we've approached it, and I think you'll like it. And then building great UX experience. So UX has been something that we've been strong in, but we've gotten a lot of feedback and we've incorporated that. And so I think there's some exciting things that you'll see there. And then, throughout, feel free to drop in your questions. And, then at the end, we're going to go through and take your questions and address those, and then we'll wrap up. And so before I get started with kind of intros of the team, the first thing I just want to mention is most of the folks attending, I think I recognize a lot of you. You're very familiar with Launchpad, you're familiar with Pega. There are people here that may not be familiar with Pega or Launchpad or use Launchpad. And so, thank you for joining us here to learn more about some of the latest features and capabilities. And if you want to learn more about the platform specifically, go to our website, launchpad.io, follow our LinkedIn channel, link on our LinkedIn page, launchpad.io. And feel free to reach out to me as well. So with that, we'll get started. So again, I'm your host, Jason Macharelli. I run go-to-market globally for Launchpad. I also run our corporate venture fund. My co-host is Frank Apap. And then our panelists from our product and engineering teams are Reka, Zach, Adam, and Vijay. And so I'm excited to have this team join me and walk you through the latest in Launchpad. All right, so first off, we're going to talk about many-to-many relationships in the platform. And I guess, my first question here is, what is many-to-many in terms of the concept, and why is it important?
Thank you, Jason. First time, really excited to be here to talk about this capability on many-to-many association. What is many-to-many association? So many-to-many association is basically when an item can be associated with multiple items and vice versa. Think about employees and trainings. An employee can attend multiple trainings, and a training can be attended by many employees. That's the crux of it. Why should you even care about it or be excited about it? So the reason you should be excited about is it boosts the productivity by drastically reducing the time and effort needed to build the association manually. So does that help you give a high-level overview, Jason, and everyone?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so it's great. So from a development perspective, it sounds like it really accelerates things in terms of really making it easy to build those many associations within the platform. So I guess in terms of takeaways from this, what would you say are kind of the big things that people should walk away with today's session to understand?
Awesome. The takeaways for the many-to-many association. First, as I mentioned, it is incredibly easy to implement. All you need to do is create a field on one of the object. That's it. And the entire many-to-many association infrastructure is available for you. The data integrity is maintained without the need for developer to writing the complex automation logic. That is taken care for you in the background. In addition to that, the UI is generated for you if you want to see the association between the two items. For example, in the employees, if you want to see the list of the trainings, the tab is automatically added on both the side of the object. You need not have to modify the case view to keep it to see the list of the items that is associated between the two objects. So in summary, It is simple to use, saves a lot of time, and the data integrity is maintained without additional developer effort.
Awesome. Well, I love your passion about this. I know you've been excited about introducing this and been involved in building it out. So, one other question I think is important is, um, does this allow you to connect internal and external objects?
Oh, absolutely. So many-to-many association works seamlessly for any kind of objects, whether you have two internal objects, one internal, one external, or two external objects. The association is maintained in a link table, so it seamlessly works for all kind of object. And thank you for bringing the passion. I think I am the biggest fan of this feature and honestly cannot stop boasting about it.
That's great. That's great. So some people may not be clear, but so when you say internal and external, can you talk a little bit more about like what you mean by an internal and external?
Okay, let's see an example. So an employee and a training. So employee can be a persona and training can be a case. And you can have an association between these two objects. Likewise, you can have a certification. And the certification can be coming from an external system of records. So the certification is created externally, and I can still have an association between employee and certification. What all certification an employee has. That is what it means about support of external object in many-to-many.
Wow, awesome. That's great. And can you use this across different types of cases and data and personas?
Oh, great. This is a great question. I think in the last webinar that we conducted in the previous month, where Pooja, one of our colleague, has introduced the persona concept. So yes, the many-to-many association works with any kind of objects, the cases, data, or personas. In our example that I've been talking, the employee can be a persona, the training can be a case type, and certification can be a data object. So it works in all objects.
Nice. That's awesome. And so while you're developing, can you use debugging tools like Tracer and Clipboard to really see these associations in the context of a current case?
Oh, absolutely. So you can use any debugging tools like Tracer or Clipboard. So many-to-many association is nothing but a multi-record field in the background. So you will be able to see all the association in the clipboard, and you can run the tracer to see how the update and creation of the association is happening in the tracer. So there's no difference between multi-record field and many-to-many fields that we create.
Oh, okay. Great. And my last question, I guess, is um, does this impact the unit consumption for Launchpad units?
Great question. I think many of our attendees would be interested in this. So the answer is absolutely no. There would be no impact on the unit consumption if you're using many-to-many associations.
Okay, great. Awesome. Well, this has been great. Thanks for taking us through this. Is there any last comments or anything, or should we move on to the next topic?
Oh, I am really excited. As you can see from the feedback comment, it's actually that easy. All you need to do is create a field. I cannot wait for our providers to start using it and take the feedback so that we can further enhance and improve our product.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank you,
Thank you
Jason.
so much. Great. All right. The next thing is we want to get into error handling and application logic. And so, I guess my first question is this similar to how error handling is done in other programming languages?
Yes, it is. It's actually almost behavior-wise, it's quite similar to like a try-catch in Java or most other programming languages like that. You can kind of think of it as in an automation, every step is implicitly wrapped with a try block. And if you want to handle any error that occurs or an error that occurs on that specific step, you can click the plus button there on the automation step on the right and define an error handler for that step. And then within that error handler, you can define one or more steps to take some alternate action or whatever you want to do when that error occurs.
Okay, cool. If you don't mind, maybe there may be some people on who may not know a lot about error handling. So maybe just give a quick little bit of context and overview of what this capability is and why this is important, if you don't
Sure.
mind.
So the original use cases that kind of prompted this whole thing were one thing I want to mention is that, yeah, error handling is not for like validations. It's more to handle things that happen at runtime that you can't predict that are going to happen. So for example, if you're calling an external service with a REST call, like that might time out, that might fail, and there's nothing that you can do to predict that that's going to happen and guard against it ahead of time. So you'll want to use this when, yeah, you have a REST call timing out, for example, or maybe some like transient issues with objects, like say you have a race condition where multiple users are trying to update something at the same time. So you'll use this to handle things like that, where you have no choice but to try the action, and then if something goes wrong, you can either do a retry or something like that, depending on what you want to handle.
Okay. All right. So I can imagine as, kind of in the spirit of creating enterprise grade apps, even for SMBs and large enterprises, this is pretty critical to be able to have this capability, deeply embedded into Launchpad.
Right. Yeah. Especially like, yeah, if you want to use, a lot of emphasis now on like Gen AI services, right? If you're going to call some Gen AI service for something, that might time out, that might have some sort of error, and you want to be able to guard against that.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. And so, on the programming language side and just kind of familiarity. So what's great is it sounds like any developer who's new to Launchpad should be very comfortable with how we manage error handling based on, that this is familiar based on other tools that they've used.
Right. Yeah, that was our goal when we designed this, that most, developers are very familiar with the concept of try catch. So that's been tried and true for this in this industry for decades. So we decided to leverage that.
Awesome. And when would you want to use this?
Yeah, so sort of like I mentioned, yeah, if you have the two different types of errors that we have the ability to handle now are more like transient service errors like timeouts or HTTP calls. And then the other one is the object management errors, like if you have duplicate records or concurrent updates.
Yeah. Okay. And is this for like, if I want to catch specific types of errors, or if I want to catch all errors, like how do I leverage this?
Sure. So by default, you'll catch all of the errors that occur on this step, or any of the two types that I mentioned, the timeouts or the transient errors like that. If you want to catch one of those specific types, you can simply just define a when step inside the error handler, and then you can say when the current error is a timeout error, then you can take some action, and then say if you wanted to take a different action when it was an HTTP error, you could add another when step and then nest steps under there. So you do have granular control over what you do.
Okay, cool. And then my last question is, can I nest error handling blocks?
Yeah, you can. So if you want to, for example, try something, and then if that hint fails with a timeout error, you may want to try again. And then if that fails, you may want to take another action. So you can certainly nest blocks if you need to. You can also do a loop, and if you want to bake in multiple retries like that. So it's pretty flexible in its implementation.
Cool. Very awesome. Any last comments that you want to share with folks before we move into UI?
Yeah, I just want to show here in the video, you can see in the tracer, it does show that when we're executing an error step, you can see that the error handlers get executed. So you do have visibility into error handling. If you're trying to test out your app or if something goes wrong, you can use our tracer tool that we've had supported for a while now to be able to debug what's going on.
Got it. Awesome. Great. Let's transition into basically the UX themes and dashboards and how you build a great UI. I think there's been a huge leap on this, and so I'm very excited about this one. So let's get into it, and maybe just give a quick overview of what the new enhancements are and the capabilities.
We wanted to make our branding very much easier for our providers and app developers. We know everybody believes, and now we have proven that Constellation Design System has truly been remarkable because of its prescribed behavior of, like, you just focus on your business aspects, and then we'll take care of the UI. But at the same time, branding is something very important for all of our customers, and it is very personal to them as well. So this was a leap of faith where we took a step to like introduce more powerful capabilities in theming and branding, where uh, where teams can just quickly create their personal themes or their branding themes in like within 20 seconds. And also if they wanted to make it tailored to their deeply nested style guidelines, and if they have a bigger teams from UX and their own design teams, they can go even nested levels and then do it more collaboratively.
Okay. And what inspired these changes and updates?
Well, I would say our customers, their belief in Constellation design system, and then asking for more, that, hey, we need more personalization aspects to your themes. And then, we want like maybe more modern looking, where we say like a more support for gradients, imagery and whatnot. So in modern era, like brand guidelines are not limited to just piece of colors and fonts. There are much more things coming up, and that's where we wanted to make our capabilities of theming also up to the mark, and if not at par.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, as I'm watching the screen go by, like seeing the examples of the templates and themes and updates that can be made very quickly, it's very powerful. I mean, when I talk to providers that are building with Launchpad or prospects, actually, we just talked to one this week, and he basically said, he's like, look, if I knew about Launchpad 2 years ago, I wouldn't have had to spend, $300,000-400,000 on UI development, and this is a real value. And now, all the stuff that we can do to enhance the look and feel of it's pretty powerful. So, how does this help teams with limited design resources? So, I kind of touched on it a little bit, but it sounds like this could make things a lot easier.
Yeah, especially like we have rolled out like kind of a two-step process here. As you can see on the screen, there's a quick setting tab which just literally gives you an option to choose your branding color, choose your font, and then your preference for border radiuses, and then you are done with your theme. Like
Okay.
literally takes less than 10 seconds at times if you are familiar with the UX already. So that really helps speed up the go-to-market for small team-sized customers, where their focus is more onto like they have their miniature or very simplified branding requirements, and then they just wanted to go live with their apps and then take forward their business aspects of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, it sounds like, from a UI team perspective, there's a lot less resources required because you can build, much faster because we're already providing this. So they don't have to start from scratch to kind of create their own UI. This is already a proven model that works with B2B very well. But then also as they add new features and capabilities, that UI is just created for them automatically. So they don't need to continuously do a lot of UI development. So that's awesome. How do these changes impact performance and accessibility?
Well, on the performance side, there are virtually no impact because this is all like CSS, and this is built on top of our existing infrastructure and the design system implementation.
Yeah.
On the accessibility, we do have a very powerful accessibility color contrast checker, which works on the design time. That means you will never end up having an accessibility concern or accessibility issue in your live running app. Uh, you will get all those flags and warnings while you are designing the themes for them for yourself. So and until unless like you are into a strong accessibility setup, and you are okay with choosing some different configurations for your theme, which gives you more flexibility over choice of going too harsh or too hard on the accessibility, all those kind of contrast warnings are flagged here, so you can take a more informed decisions for your themes rather than getting a surprise while you roll out your application and that, hey, some colors are not working together.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's important because, especially startups, a lot of times they don't even think about these things when they start to build. And then, they try to, respond to an RFP for a larger enterprise client they want to sell to. And all of a sudden they have requirements around accessibility and performance and so on, and they can't address those requirements. So we make it very easy for them, it sounds like. Yeah. All right. In terms of what are some of the feature enhancements you're planning to take this further?
Yeah, we have quite an exciting updates coming up for this to make it more, testable and then improve the feedback cycle. We are also thinking in terms of like how can we make them more portable. So you have one app You start in your QA environment, and then you use a theme, and then you use the same theme, port it, and share it across different environments, so that it helps you test your branding before you actually roll out and move it to the production. So that will definitely help a lot in terms of reuse and portability. There are other exciting updates coming up which uses our GenAI capabilities, so that it starts with a better experience from the beginning, like you are creating a theme and which is more tailored for your branding guidelines. If you can provide some details about your, let's say, your website or something. So the GenAI basically makes it very easy for you to like give you the first cut itself, that you don't even need to have play around with it. You get your
Nice.
theme just by asking. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. That sounds like a great leap that we'll be doing. Awesome. So one thing I want to mention before we get into the Q&A is that we're actually planning to do a webinar in the next couple of months. We'll announce the date probably in the next week on how do you build great UIs with these new capabilities. So we'll actually do a deep dive and a dedicated session for this. So this was great. Thanks for sharing, and this is a great update. Cool. So anything else that you want to share before we get into Q&A, Vijay?
Not pretty much. I think I covered already, and I
Great.
would keep it a little more surprise. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
Great.
Thanks so much. All right. Great. So good. We'll get into Q&A. I saw a bunch of questions coming in. And so if Katie or Frank, if you want to kind of read off the questions and bring us through, that would be great.
Sure. So yeah, there were two questions that were sort of related. During, I think, actually the many-to-many part, there was a question about whether or not this feature was available in Pega Cloud. And then there was also a similar question about the UX features being available in Pega Cloud. So I just want to take the opportunity to reset that Launchpad is a different platform than Pega Infinity. They're completely different code bases. They share a lot of the same concepts, so that's why things may look very similar, but they are different. So if you're, I'm assuming you're talking about Pega Infinity on Pega Cloud. So these features are very distinct from that. Some of those UX features that you saw are actually shared because we do use the same Constellation design system. I'm not the expert on exactly which features are or are not shared. And for the purpose of Launchpad, I think we'll table that discussion. You can follow up on that. So yeah, it's important to keep in mind that Launchpad is different. Launchpad is built on Pega Cloud, so just to make sure people understand that. But the actual functionality you're seeing today is specific to Launchpad. So the other question, and Jason, I'll let you answer this one, was, are there trial versions available to explore Launchpad?
Good question. So we're right now updating the site to basically define our kind of pricing tiers. We have a free tier model, which is really focused on blueprint and unit estimator. And then to get into the dev environment and all the things that you saw today, that still requires a paid subscription. But that's essentially available for either for about $900 a month to get started, and there's just a quarterly commitment of 3 months. So if you want to get started, feel free to reach out to me or contact us through the website, and happy to kind of help you get started.
Right, so right now I don't see any additional questions. We can give it a second. If you're looking to ask a question and you don't see the Q&A on your right-hand webinar panel, look in the lower right corner for the 3 dots where it says more panels, and you should see Q&A. So
Right.
you can give a second. I know it was hidden for me at the beginning, so.
Yeah, and maybe Frank, while we're seeing if other questions pop in, you're in touch with providers all the time. With some of these new capabilities, do you have any additional thoughts or commentary in terms of kind of how these help companies with their development and also deliver better solutions for their clients?
Absolutely. So these 3 features are a great breadth of capabilities, right? They range from the UX improvements that make the system easier to build, consumer grade experiences, to the back end with error handling. But the key theme across all 3 of these is that they really accelerate how fast you can develop applications in Launchpad. The speed that you can get to market is improved by all 3 of these. instead of you designing many-to-many relationships, which can be quite a complex, architectural feat, to error handling and having to kind of work around, the edge cases of your application, to building good UXs without having to, kind of pixel perfect them. The underlying theme across all three is that you get your application to market in the hands of your paying customers faster and with less effort.
Awesome.
And I think that all three of these are going to really, accelerate that as new projects take advantage of them.
Yeah. And one thing we get a question on a lot, since we're talking about UI, is, so we've talked about how you can kind of tailor and customize what we've got. What if you wanted to build some custom components and have your own kind of UI capabilities? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I always talk about the 4 ways you can experience Launchpad. Obviously, you can use Constellation sort of as is, drag and drop user experience. You also can add custom React components that you build into that core Constellation experience. So that gives you one sort of small jump of customization. Another jump would be to use web embed, where you take pieces of that application and embed it in your or your customer's external website. And then that sort of 4th layer is where you use the DX APIs to use your own design system, and all of the UX is rendered by your design system in your code. So it's sort of, I look at it as a spectrum where you gain a lot more flexibility, but generally the cost does go up.
Sure.
To be honest, right? There's a reason why everything has a trade-off. But we really believe that giving you that flexibility allows you to use Launchpad in a way that fits your business.
Yeah. Yeah. And so from that, you can basically, you could embed other apps in with those components. You could also, with an existing application, like a SaaS application that's already out there, you could basically embed our UI and make it feel very seamless with their existing UI as well. Is that correct?
100%. We've seen all of these permutations start to play out within the Launchpad ecosystem. So actually, there's a related question. I don't know if someone paid off Marco to ask a related question to that. But so Marco asked, does themes branding allow for white labeling of apps? Subscribers can apply their own themes. And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. So much like Pega's traditional heritage, Launchpad operates on a layer cake, and it has a concept of configuration as one of those layers. Configuration are the rules that apply specific to a given subscriber of your application. And one of those rules can be the theme rule, which is a very easily delegatable rule for a subscriber to customize, or for a provider to customize on behalf of a subscriber. So if you don't want the individual subscriber being able to change their colors, but you want to put in an hour or a half hour of work to build them a theme, you can do that as well. But yes, and in general, all of Launchpad is designed to be white labeled for you and for your customer, meaning at no point should Pega's name or logo ever peek through to the experience that your customers have, unless you want it to.
Yeah. And that includes URLs too,
yes.
Right?
URLs, logos, color schemes, all of that you can control to brand like your business, or if you need to white label it for your customers, you have that flexibility as well.
Nice. Great. And any other ones pop in while we're talking?
We had a question on many-to-many for Reka. What happens when an associated reference rule or field in a many-to-many relationship is deleted, and how is the relationship maintained or cleaned up?
Thank you, Katie. I think this is a great question. So many-to-many record, the field, is nothing different than existing multi-record field. So for example, in a view, if you are referencing a field and somebody goes ahead and deletes the field, you have to ensure that the view is updated accordingly. The same is the case with many-to-many association. This is the design side of it. At the runtime side, so for example, if we have an employee and a training, I've associated 5 employees to a training. I go ahead and remove 2 of the employees. And if I go to the employee record, I'll see that the 3 trainings are associated with that. And the same update will happen on the other side of the object automatically. So that at the runtime, the association is maintained on both the sides without you doing any of the hard coding of writing a complex automation or writing your own data pages to do the work. It is all taken care. At the design time, as I mentioned, you have to ensure that your rules are in sync. If you are deleting a field or a rule that is referenced in another, it's a developer's responsibility to make sure they are in sync. Does it answer, Katie?
Yes, thank you so much. Okay, we have another question. Are we following a similar blueprint-led delivery methodology here for delivery? And what is the time frame and how many case types and integration do we cover?
I can take that. And again, maybe we paid someone to ask a very leading question, but yeah, not just do we follow a blueprint methodology, we actually have a webinar on Tuesday talking about how Blueprint and Launchpad are a perfect fit together. I'm not really sure about what is the part of the what is the time frame question, but like in general, like you go through your blueprint as you would whether it was Pega Infinity or Launchpad. You iterate in Blueprint, you set up your case types, your workflows, your data model, your personas, and then you can import them into Launchpad, and all of the information that you've captured in Blueprint is greatly accelerated. So you save at least a few weeks of typing and kind of translating the core workflow into Blueprint, into Launchpad. From there, the time it takes to actually implement the rest of the application is very dependent on the application. We've seen applications in a few weeks go from Blueprint to ready to sell or ready to deliver. And others take a little longer depending on integrations, depending on the complexity of the business rules and the automations that still need to be implemented. And to be honest, depending on the quality of what came out of Blueprint. And if you spent the right amount of time to iterate on your workflows and your case types in Blueprint. But what is without a doubt is that Blueprint significantly accelerates, that overall time frame from idea to live.
Awesome. Another question here. In the new management of the themes and dashboards, can I create the standard colors of graphs, bars, like columns, graphs? And second, when the customizations are on the dash, and second, when are the customizations on the dashboard available?
Sure, Katie, I can take that one. So for the first one there, this is something that we are looking at. It's not yet available, and the reason for that is because when it's rolled out, we want to make sure that we're maintaining the compliance with accessibility. So in terms of the requirements that Vijay was mentioning earlier with contrasting colors and things like that, obviously when we start picking specific colors, we need to make sure that we are compliant with accessibility. And I think that's something that's very important to us there, especially when you have like a larger volume of colors that are needed in a chart or that type of thing. So stay tuned on that. And if I understand the second question correctly, what's available right now for the dashboards, in terms of the customization, the author can easily rearrange the content by essentially dragging and dropping elements onto the page and drag to resize them and that type of thing. And what that allows them to do is, you can add a variety of data to the screen, you can resize, you can configure it and make it the most meaningful, visualization that you can. And the nice thing about that too is that the template automatically adjusts to different screen sizes and devices. So you have that consistent, user-friendly experience no matter what you're looking at on the screen. So hopefully that answers the question there.
Thank you. One more question on many-to-many. Can I create an update association from an automation?
Katie, as I mentioned that this is introduced now in Launchpad, and this is the very next capability we will be introducing. So you will be getting it very soon.
Thank you.
So it looks like we're through all the questions, and this was fantastic. So I again thank you so much for staying on and listening in, and following us on this journey. We're excited about the impact that these features and Launchpad overall can have, kind of on software companies, businesses. And so just a reminder, join us next Tuesday for the Build with Blueprint session specific to Launchpad. Look for a follow-up email with a recording. We'll also post links on our LinkedIn page. And the next What's New webinar will be on August 21st. And look forward to seeing you then. Thank you so much. Have a great day.